boy, this is pretty cool. All right, so gear drives are becoming the next big thing on electric skateboards. Is it for you? Can you switch wheels on it? And can you just add one to your board that you already have that's a belt drive? Yep, all of the above, at least with this one from Omni ESK8. Let's take a look at their gear drive. Welcome to the Vapor Trail channel. I'm Tony. Yeah, gear drives, they seem like they're showing up everywhere right now. Belt drive and hub drive have been the main ones for electric skateboards. There are a few out there with direct drive, but this is something altogether different. Omni ESK8 is a brand that sells a lot of DIY parts. I think everything but the battery and the ESC, you might even be able to get those on there, I don't know. But their website is chock full of stuff, including this gear drive, which we're gonna get to here in a minute, but they've got foot stops on there, they've got anti-sink plates, they've got trucks, they've got motors, and a really sweet deck, which I'm thinking, dude, that would be really cool. I'd really like to try a full DIY board. So if you wanna do all that, they've got the stuff. I'll put a link down in the description for you so you can check that out. And I think I might have a discount code for you too. If I do, I'll put that down there. So gear drives, what is the advantage to a gear drive? Well, as opposed to belt drives, which you can get twigs and rocks and things stuck between the pulley and the belt, which can make the belt snap. Well, belts will snap eventually too after a certain amount of miles. Plus, if they're exposed to different temperatures and things, they can become brittle. There's a lot of different variables when it comes to belts. Also, when you're using belts, you've got to adjust tension on those belts occasionally. And some people have a hard time getting those belt tensions just right. Belt drives can also be pretty loud, which gear drives definitely are quieter than those. I've also noticed with gear drives, the braking seems to be a little bit more smooth and a little bit more precise. There are definitely some advantages, but up until I got this set, there are some big disadvantages. It's much more difficult to change out the types of wheels that you have on there. If you want to go from AT wheels to street wheels, you can't do that on some of them. As a matter of fact, my NYX Z1, you're not going to put street wheels on that thing. And what I've seen from other brands like Meepo and X-Way, they have kind of proprietary hubs that have the adapters on them, that type of thing. So with these, actually it's really easy to swap out. All you have to do is take out the adapter, put a new one on there, and put your wheel on there. These come with ABEC, Kegel, and yes, a proprietary adapter. It's a coupler adapter that you will use on their aluminum hub wheels, and you'll put your own tires and inner tubes on those. And so technically you can switch from AT to street wheels and back, no problem at all. So if you're gonna swap out your wheels, you just take off the old one, you pull out your adapter, and you'll see that it has those little nubs that go right into those little holes. Then you put your new adapter on there, boom, and your new wheel. So, I mean, it's just that easy. And if you were gonna use the all-terrain wheels, well, you would have the adapter actually screwed into the all-terrain wheel, and that would just pop right on there. Pop it out, boom. And that is how fast you'll be swapping out your wheels. They've also got a couple of interesting options for wheels that you could put on their hubs, like these 130 millimeter 75A premium PU wheel sleeves. That would be interesting. What I'm really interested in though is these airless rubber sleeves, because they'd be like those airless rubber tires that I've got. So that might be an option. So yeah, with an enclosed system like this gear drive system, you don't have to worry about all that debris and stuff getting stuck in there and maybe popping your belt or whatever, which gives me a little bit of range anxiety. You know, if I'm gonna be, I don't know, 10 miles away from where my car or my home is, and I bust a belt, that's not gonna be any fun. Can't really ride back on one belt, and kick pushing with one belt on there, no good, so you're gonna have to take off the other belt and try to kick push it back because a lot of these boards are pretty heavy. All right, before I get any further, I wanna talk about installing these things, okay? They have a video on their YouTube channel, which I'll put a link to down in the description, where they swap one out in like 3 minutes. They install the whole gear drive and wheel on there and whoop, within 3 minutes. Now some of it is fast forwarded. So I had some confidence doing this. I'm not a huge technical guy when it comes to disassembling and reassembling things, but I'm learning, as is a necessity if you're going to be using these boards, because eventually all boards become a little bit DIY. You got to do repairs on them. So I did run into a little bit of trouble. One thing that is a real pain is when it comes to the motor pulleys. Those have to come off because you're going to put that helical gear on there, basically replacing the motor pulley. Well, there's a set pin in there, and everybody had told me you got to heat that thing up with a heat gun, which I tried on the first one. I guess I didn't do it long enough or something, but I ended up stripping that screw out. So yeah, I had to go to the hardware store, get a good drill bit, because that set screw was recessed in there. There was no way, and it's so tiny, there's no way you're going to use like, a screw extractor or whatever. It was just not possible. So I said, well, this 14T pulley that's currently on the wheel, I'm just gonna have to get a new pulley if I decide to put this thing back together the way it was. So I just drilled it out. Once I got that thing drilled out, then you wanna put your pulley puller on there. And the puller, they do send you a pulley puller. On this one, the bolts were just too long to get it tightened up. So I used a pair of vice grips, clamped them on there, as you can see right here, and then you just get that thing aligned properly and you just twist it off. Eventually it'll pull off of there and you're good to go. That was on the first one. I mean, once I got that pulley off of there, installing the rest of it wasn't all that difficult. You know, you just put the bolts in there the way that they went in with your motor mounts. Tighten everything up. And then you're going to pull your motor back just a little bit so that you can get the right amount of space in between all the gears, and then you're going to tighten everything down and then put the last gear inside of there. And then the last step is just slathering it with a bunch of this white grease that they also sent. You want to make sure that you get enough of that grease on all of the gears and spin them around and clean it off and all that kind of stuff. But once you get all that done, you just put the cover on there and you're pretty much good to go. You know, my only real complaint with these is that the screws that they use for the gearbox itself, for the cover on here, they protrude, and it would be nice if they were flush. There's a good reason for that, because sometimes the depth on the inside of the wheel might be different from manufacturer to manufacturer. What I ended up with is these wheels were rubbing on those screws that are in the face plate on it. So I had to take them off and add a washer on the inside to push them out just a little bit so that they no longer rubbed. Now you might notice that one of those gears is white, and some people will say plastic, but that's not what it is really. I mean, it's Delrin, which is, well, the generic name for it is POM, P-O-M. Delrin is a very good material for something like this. It's strong, has a little bit of flexibility to it. It's very good for high heat applications. It's used in machinery and manufacturing plants and stuff like that, and it's used in autos and things. It's a very good and strong material. So how long did it take me to put the first one on, including having to go to the hardware store and get some things and all of that? About an hour and 45 minutes for the first one. How long did it take me to put the second one on there? About 30 minutes, because then I was like, oh yeah, okay, I understand all this. And so, you know, maybe a learning curve, but yeah, definitely it wasn't all that difficult to do. It's a nice sealed compartment and everything looks nice and smooth. And then when you're done, you get this. So once they're on, how do they operate? Well, the feel on these things is really very nice. It's very smooth. I'll say that the acceleration, at least with the board that I put them on, my Lycon TRX, it feels to me like the belts were a little bit more zippy, you know, a little bit more torque off the get-go when you're just launching. However, the braking on it is much more smooth. It feels really nice, and it brakes nice and right down to it. I like the braking on it. But once you get moving, the speed on them, it seems like the speed is a little bit higher than it was with the belts. Now that white gear in there is actually a 40T pulley, I think, which I believe is the same pulley that was on there with the belt. And from what I understand, you'll just leave these things set for belt if there's a setting like that in your ESC and on your remote. As far as the roll feel when you're using these, it's actually very nice. It rolls a lot easier than belts, and well, if something were to happen and your board just wasn't working and you needed to get home, you could kick push this thing home. When you first stand on the board or at really low speeds though, under 5 miles per hour, it feels a little clunky inside the gears. That's normal from what I can tell, at least with the two boards that I have with gear drive. It can make a little bit of noise. It sounds a little grindy or something like that, but it's not. And if you put enough of that lubrication grease in there, you shouldn't have any problems with that. Once you get rolling, man, it is nice. And it's a lot quieter. Well, I don't know if it's a lot quieter because motors are going to have a noise to them anyways, but to me, it's considerably quieter than the belt drives that were on that board. So I decided on that Lycon board because I like to use that one with street wheels or cloud wheels or, you know, a different variety of wheels. And I'll put some tubes and tires onto those new hubs that I've got, and well, we'll put those on there. If you look at this, they've got these little pins in there that actually help it so that when you put them together, those pins will hold it in place so they're not going to spin or anything like that. And these things are really nicely CNC'd. They're really, really high-end looking, so I'm pretty happy with that. But if you look at this, these are the trucks that came off of my Meepo board and the trucks that are on that Lycon board, and they kind of look exactly the same. So technically, if you have a Meepo Hurricane, yeah, you can put these on that, no problem. And they cost less than the gear drives that Meepo is selling. The list price for these is $299. Sometimes they have a sale and it's like $280 or something like that. But, you know, use my discount code and you'll even get more of a discount off of them. So with most of the gear drive systems that I've seen on the market, the big downside is that you really can't switch wheels that much. I mean, you know, basically you got to use wheels that will fit with their adapters and whatever else. Well, these, you've got the ABEC, the Kegel, and you've even got ones that will work with their all-terrain hubs, their aluminum hubs, which means you can basically put whatever tire you want on there. That covers most of the bases, but I've got those airless rubber tires that I got from Chaboards. And you can't use those with these because they use a specific adapter / pulley. These are like 97% more adaptable than most what I've seen out there so far. So a lot of versatility with these. And here's what they sound like being ridden in the real world. I'm not gonna lie, this was pretty daunting. At first I was like, oh, I don't know, man. The video is only like 3.5 minutes long from them, but they made them. I just had a lot of stuff going on, so they sat in a box for a little while as I pondered which board am I gonna put them on, you know, what are all the different circumstances around it, and when am I gonna have time? I don't have a garage or anything to work in, so I gotta set up shop in my dining room. It's not something where I can leave the project and come back the next day. My wife she'd kill me. But once I really put my mind to it and I got committed to it, it wasn't a problem at all. That first one just took longer because I was figuring it all out. Second one, about 30-35 minutes max. My verdict is they're well worth the money. They're nice, and if you're looking for a change from belt drive, don't want to go hub or direct drive, this is definitely a good way to go. And if you're looking to DIY a board, you should check out their website because they got just about everything you're going to need on there. So again, I want to thank Omni ESK8 for sending over this giant box of goodness, and yeah, here's some of the other stuff that was inside of the box. So yeah, a variety of things. This is how the wheels or hubs came. So yeah, they're nicely wrapped, and again, that's what they look like. So you've got these couplers here. Again, they fit together with those pins, and then the coupler is going to attach on the back of it like that. And then these will just pop into the white palm gear that's inside of the drive. Now these here, I'm not exactly sure what they are because they didn't come, everything else is like nicely labeled. You know, they do a good job of that, even with the different screws and stuff that they send, they're nicely labeled. These were not wrapped or labeled or anything. But I'm guessing that they would work similarly. That attaches onto there, but this looks like a standard pulley, so I'm not exactly sure. And for whatever reason, I don't see these on their website. And then these shaft sleeves, those were in the package as well. But they also have things like this. This is a nice foot stop that you can put on your board. They do have bearings. These are the 10mm bearings. And I also got some nice anti-sink plates. Or if you'd rather go with washers, some anti-sink washers. But really, there's a lot more on their website, so this is just a small sampling of stuff that they sent over. Technically, if I wanted to do a full build, I could mostly do that through what they've got on their website. So that's just a small sampling of the other stuff they have that they sent me. I'm pretty stoked about it. If you're looking to get a gear drive, you want good value for your money, and you don't want to have proprietary adapters and all that kind of stuff, well, aside from the one for their AT wheels, this is definitely a good one to look at. They did tell me that they're looking at different adapters that they can put out for some of these specific other wheels, but you know, for now, I mean, that's more than anybody else has got, so that's nice. All at a better cost. Hey, I want to thank you so much for your support here on the channel. It's been around since 2013. Just started covering electric skateboards, scooters, and bikes, and you know, some of the other stuff that is my passion about 1.5 to 2 years ago. I thought it was time to share these passions with you, and I really, really do appreciate your support. Got some really cool stuff lined up for you here on the channel, so make sure you stick around for that. I do have a thanks button that's down there. If you feel like sending a monetary thanks to the channel, you can always use it. It's not inexpensive to do this. And the easiest way to support me is by giving this video a like if you like what you see. There's also a red subscribe button down there. If you click that and the notification bell, you'll get notifications when I upload new videos. I'll have links for the stuff in this video today, and I also have links down there for my social media, so if you have one of those, I would appreciate a follow. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll catch you next time on the Vapor Trail channel.